Welcome to Own It. Today we're talking with Kristine Milkovich, a Seattle real estate powerhouse known for her killer storytelling and unapologetic advocacy for fair housing and LGBTQ+ rights. From running a double book salon to leading a world-class beauty company and now a top-tier real estate team, Kristine's journey is proof that defying the norm and carving your own path can pay off big. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Own It. I'm Hillary Saunders, joined by my shoe-deprived co-host,
They're so
Spencer
boring.
Kroll.
You guys have such great shoes on. And
You are shown up by our guest. I will say, for people that do not, you need. Let me just back up. You need to go to the YouTube channel because you have to see our guest, Kristine Milkovich's shoes. They are on point and stellar, and I am rocking the Snakes from the Spanx Gal.
And I have shoes I got at Nordstrom Rack. So there you go.
Well, all right. Yeah. We digress. Kristine Milkovich, thank you so much for being our guest on Own It today. You are not just a secret style icon, but you also have a name. You have a key with branding calling yourself the Milkoviches. Is that right?
It is true. So the team that my sister Lisa Milkovich and I created in the Seattle market, we go back to those old days. We're originally from Michigan, the Detroit area. And believe it or not, in high school, somebody called my sister a milky bitch. I mean, because high schoolers are mean and nasty and not kind. So anyway, yes, sometimes when we're having a stressful day or we're in that client contract debate amongst us, she's just like, the milky bitches will figure it out. Let's do this.
And you are owning that.
I was going to say, that's the perfect, we're done.
We're done. Mic drop. And take two.
I love it. But so you have the most interesting, I think we say this to everybody. How did you get into real estate? You have a full-on career with L'Oreal, and now you're doing real estate.
You're going to age me, Hillary.
No, I didn't say how long. I said career.
It's okay. I have to own that too, so I'm working on it. So yes, so I was in the professional beauty industry for 23 years prior to my 11 now in real estate. And that really was a culmination of just starting, sort of bottom up. I was a working hairdressing stylist. I did that behind the chair for 12 years. And in that world, we call, when you're killing it in that world, you're double booked. We all know when we go to our salon professional, if they're working on you, they better have another person in the lobby and another one walking in the door in 10 minutes. So I'm going to brag that was me. I kind of just back to Own It. I had a really robust, successful sales hairdressing business. And then I got recruited by this little brand you might have heard of called L'Oreal. And the woman that was servicing our salon as it relates to our retail and our end caps, she just started coming after me. She's like, can we meet? Can we meet? And I kept saying, I'm busy. I'm doing a foil. I'm running behind with this glaze. I have this male haircut. Anyway, long story short, I finally said yes to a lunch, and it really actually changed the course of my life because she recruited me into an executive level position, and I ran with that, and I was in that world for 23 years.
You know what's amazing about L'Oreal is they are one of the first, they had a woman head of marketing, I believe, who came up with a marketing idea. It was because you're worth it, I think is the campaign.
It is one of the taglines.
And all of the campaigns before that were because he's worth it, or you're doing it for him. And this was the first one. It's like, who are you marketing to?
Yeah, who's your audience?
Because you're worth it. And I think that's just so beautiful. I think it's great. That's kind of the lineage that you're coming from a marketing perspective. Doing beauty products, how does that inform what you're marketing now, or your approach to marketing?
Well, Hillary was kind. We have complimented each other a few times over on some of our, I'll say I love her closet, and I think we could probably borrow closets. I don't know if I'm being assumptive, but I think that all of it matters and relates, because in that world, I was a artful marketer. I'm very attuned to aesthetics. I have an eye for how things should feel, look, sound, blend. And I think that it has served me beyond in the real estate sector. The other thing is I was in sales, and I owned a salon. I mean, I've worn 5 hats in that world. When you think of 23 years, hairdressing was a very small fraction of it.
So you owned the salon.
I at some point, I had to crawl, to walk, to run, to sprint, but I was a working stylist. I owned a salon, and then I went into the corporate side, and I was the director of field education for 17 states, so for half of the U.S., and I did that for 6 years. So I think that everything from that world is transferable because it's about service, it's about care, it's about listening, and the what do things look like without sounding snarky is when I go on a listing interview and people look at my presentation and they look at my listings and they read how I write my copy and everything I present, they're like, oh, you kind of have a background in that. Like, this isn't your first kick at the can. I think there's a lot of value in that.
It's interesting what you just said is they read your copy. I don't know that we've paid much attention to what the actual description of a property is. Like, it's so standard. And now with AI, like, it can get cuckoo real quick.
Yeah.
Like, what are some things that you kind of dig into, or where do you go to make sure that your words are reflecting what a client and buyer would walk in and see?
I think that's a really great question and great point. I think being a good storyteller and and how we all, for lack of a better term, wordsmith what we're trying to communicate. I don't think you can get good enough at that in this industry. Here we are on a podcast, that conversation could go forever. But I think as far as the copy, when I'm in the interview, Hillary, I key in on the features and benefits right in the interview. I don't wait until I'm creating the copy and getting approval from my seller and getting their buy-in. I actually get it from them. I make them the hero. So, whether we're talking about this patio feature or the presidential roof or, the granite countertops. And I think that being creative in how you put that copy into your listing flyer, onto your website, how you speak it out at the open house, it's all really powerful, right? Because we want to connect to people emotionally. And if you can't tell a good story on what you're selling, then I think you're kind of lost already at the front of the gate. So.
I think it's important, though, when you said that they can tell it's not your, I love that expression, not your first kick at the can. I'm going to start, I don't know if it's a real expression. If not, I'm going to steal it from you. I love it. But it's so important because when I was in production and I would go to someone's house and they would tour the house and they wanted to make sure they showed me stuff that had nothing to do with anything. It's like, notice that the drawers close by themselves. Like, I'll put that as the first line. Do you feel that you have the cred and maybe you have the confidence when you go in to say, no, that's great, thank you, we'll have that, we'll show that in the video, but we need to do it this way. I always got resistance on stuff like that. They always felt they knew better. Do you feel that you kind of control and you own that space?
I think that going back, a few people said it today at the conference we're all at on the main stage, particularly Hillary and Scott, is, the art of saying no in a way that keeps the door open. You're showing respect to, because quite frankly, that's my boss I'm talking to, right? The seller is my boss.
Sure.
And I think that just figuring out how to show data and credentials. When I pull out my other marketing copy, when I go to my website, when I show them the brand video I did for the house 3 weeks ago. I think that just the more that you can substantiate the value of getting it right? We only have launch weekend one. I always go back to that Eminem, whether you hate him, like him, or otherwise, that 4 minutes. I always go back to that movie. He's also from Detroit, so maybe I'm partial to that. But it's like we only get one kick at the can to make the most powerful first impression. And I think that's why being a good marketer and tying it in. But your specific question is, when I get pushback or they say the doorknobs from, 1810 are really valuable and everybody that walks in this house needs to know that I got them at a flea market in San Francisco. I think it's just being able to guide them on, that's great, let's make a feature card. Or, you know what, I can't wait to tell everybody that when they walk in the open house. But maybe let's leave that off the copy. Maybe let's go for, the square footage or the remodel or things that are a little bit more, pack a punch for a consumer.
Redirection.
Redirection.
Much more. This is why I'm not in production anymore.
This is why we get to do what we do, because it's so fun, because these are things that people, but you don't know how to articulate and you don't know how to implement. So one thing that I find very fascinating about you is that you have found a new home, a new passion for fair housing and LGBTQ plus housing rights and advocacy. And we got to spend some time in DC together, which was amazing. Where did that passion come from? Like, how did you, getting into the real estate industry is one thing, but just finding your passion and your drive?
That just, you probably can sense it since we're sitting here in a studio together. That brought up a lot of emotion for me. And I really appreciate you going there because it was just 12 months ago that I became a Western Washington Alliance member. I'm going to give you kind of a quick drill roll here. This was like a minute ago to Hillary's point. And therefore, right away, I got recruited into joining the board. So I'm the board director of membership and social for Western Washington. I chair on that board. And it took a person walking into my then office. At the time, I was actually the director of PR and communication for my brokerage corporately, like a W-2 job. I actually worked for John L. Scott under that umbrella. Well, that's a whole nother podcast. I exited that and am back in sales full time. But why I'm sharing that is that a gentleman walked in my office, and said, "There's a board position available. I think you'd be perfect for it." And it was just that. I said, "I don't know what the Alliance is. I'm gay, but I don't know what that is. I haven't looked into it." And so it was just really a kind of a role since then. It's been a fast and furious almost 14 months. And it's just such an honor and privilege to grow the market share, grow members, put together great events about education, going to DC, Hillary, where we sat for lunch at the Housing Symposium, and this being my second The Experience Alliance conference. And I'm just on fire about it. I'll say, personalizing it, I have an interesting story. Like everybody, I didn't come out till I was 31 officially. I'm 53. And again, whole other podcast, but it has taken me a while to own it, to have the courage and the bravery to work through some systematic things, some shame, all the inserts. And I'm just so excited to be able to be advocating and be an activist. And we were just talking earlier to another group here. Activism doesn't always have to be grand. It doesn't have to be this big thing. It's doing this. This is an activism moment. It's coming to this conference. It's taking the messaging back to the streets and living and breathing that in an authentic way with my clients and my community and my spouse. So that was a long-winded answer, but you're correct, Hillary. It hasn't been that long. Like just shy of 14 months since I've been a part of the Alliance.
What was it difficult to come out?
It wasn't so much like difficult. Like I was a grown woman. It wasn't like, I was hiding from my mother. But I also have, in my youth, I was married. I was married to a wonderful gentleman named Jeremy, and he's a great human, and I'm sure he's still great today. So it was really unpacking my own shame and fear of not being quite ready to fully live out loud and fully live proud in, my true skin. So I got, it was difficult in that I had to work through some things to get there.
It's a question that when we had talking to a lot of people, obviously, about this. I'm just curious, Mike, I have a trans son, and it's not an issue. Like in their school, it's just okay.
Yeah.
All right, it's an issue, and it was very different when I was growing up, of course. So I'm just curious. Do you still feel like hurdles? You're talking about shame and stuff like that. When you meet younger people in the industry, are there any that are coming to you for guidance, like specifically saying, how do I navigate this? Or are you finding that most people are already, have embraced whatever it is?
I think it's all over the board. We've heard, and maybe, Hillary and yourself having actual children. My children are furry four-leggeds at this moment, and that's probably how it will last at this age. But I think that today's generation youth, that sounds so trite, but just they're leading with courage. They're leading with a confidence, and they're leading with the fact that their voice means something. And I just can't be happier and more proud of the younger generations before us. I just am like, you go, on fire. So I would say I'm being inspired by them. I'm learning from them. I have people that are more mature than me, that are friends, family members, that are still closeted. They're still living in some fear around how do I navigate that and how do I find my voice to have that courage. So I think the number one thing is to just support people. I mean, that's what I work on every day. Is it's not my story to tell. It's not my outing moment. It's very personal. There's a million reasons why people navigate it at different, crossroads in their life.
What have you taken away, or what did you learn from your experience at L'Oreal where you were educating and translating that into real estate with you running a team, or you working with your sister as well? Yeah. And like kind of to continue Spencer's kind of line of questioning, how do you help them understand their authentic self and then translate that into being able to share with a client, this is my value proposition. This is who I am as an agent, as your fiduciary. This is what I bring to the table. How do you teach them to navigate that? Because like you said, everybody's got their inner turmoil, or maybe they're at a crossroads themselves.
I think that it goes back to articulating it goes back to identifying the pain body in the person in front of you. Let me start with that, right? I think anybody that is achieving what would be called successful sales business in anything, be it selling cosmetics and haircuts and opening salons or helping people buy and sell homes, is my sister said when she first partnered with me, which was 11 years ago, she's been in the industry 23. The Milkovich Team was conceived on paper 11 ago. That was the culmination of her and I coming together. And she sat me down as my mentor, and then I'm going to get to my actual answer. And she said, here's the thing. You weren't a flight risk. You had a 23-year successful career in marketing, sales, branding, being an evangelist, and growing something ground up. You've done it. You slayed it at that. So her thing that she said to me is, yes, you're still learning a new career. I'm not being trite or cavalier about being new talent in this very complicated, very savvy industry. But what I am saying is that it's really about the person in front of you has a problem. How can you fix it, make them feel better, and get them to their end game? And I think the more that we can keep going back to that core, the word sales has gotten, it's like a curse word. Like, yeah, run for the hills. I'm not a salesperson. I get that all the time when I'm doing trainings. I do trainings locally, and I'm doing a breakout here tomorrow as a trainer and an educator. And I think that just back to your question, Hillary, is how can we set people up to first be topic experts? Be topic experts, get really good, get a mentor, read a book, listen to podcasts, like Own It. And then you can give it your special sauce. Then you can give it your flavor, right? Then I can give it my Kristine-ism to everything I do and breathe. So I think it's just kind of just sort of that path. Own the content, understand how to deliver it in a way that's authentic, because we know if you walk into a room and somebody is not really comfortable or being authentic, you smell it before they even walk in the door, before they get out of their car. Like, that's just like, oh, okay. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but yeah, I think there's sort of that pathway that you just have to walk through. And
you did, and I think Spencer, being the longtime educator that you are, I think you would agree that you really have to understand what it is that you are doing in the real estate transaction. Like, know it frontwards and backwards. Pick your special niche, like whether you're selling land and ranch or if it's downtown high-rise condos. Pick something. Don't spread yourself so thin, but become an expert, a subject matter expert.
Right. I love that. It's that whole, what is that? I'm slaughtering it. That like master of none situation.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah,
Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah.
Thank you. I always screw those up.
Yeah. It's funny that you said something like someone's sitting in front of you and they have a problem. And what an interesting way to look at it, because I was thinking, okay, someone has a need or something, which when people come to you, obviously you're probably now at a place in your career where people now seek you out, right? When you were starting, what was that sales cycle like to find the people with the problem?
Well, I thank you for refreshing my memory. I wanted to give honor to the woman that brought me into her folds, trusted me to build a successful team, happens to be my sister. Her name's Lisa. She looked at me and she said, if I teach you nothing in this business, coming from a tenured background that you already have, if I teach you nothing as your mentor, here's what I'm going to let you know. You are a well-paid problem solver. And she's like, I want you to get up every day while you're training. And once you earn your stripes and you start running on your own, always go back to that. And that has been a leading compass for me. It's kind of been my North Star. Like, any of us sitting in this room right now, when we have a problem where we aren't the expert and we're doling out our hard-earned money to call on somebody that's going to take really good care of us, I think the moment I stop seeing what I do through that lens, it's time for me to get out. I'm done. Because I don't have any heart anymore. I don't have any passion. The real core of all this is, we're selling and buying houses and we're being marketers and we're making things pretty. But it's at the end of the day, truly, truly giving it your all to take care of that person's problem. And I think if you can do that well, you're just going to skyrocket in this business.
How many people do you have on your team?
So it is a team of 5, and I will be very transparent because we need more of it at these conferences and on podcasts and everywhere else. Our business this year is down 40% year over last. Okay, we've all been talking to economists. We've been hearing about the market. I know that not every brokerage or broker has that story, but a lot do. And I talk to them about it and we lean in for support. So we are down this year over last. A year and a half ago, we closed 58 million. The year before, 65. We're a high producing luxury Seattle team, but we had to do some layoffs. So, and I think that this also goes back to courage. We've been talking about it from the main stage. It's like, if I get asked that question, am I going to share that? You betcha I am, because there's another broker or a team leader out there that's like, damn it, I had to do a layoff this year. My business is down. It's not quite as strong as it was last year for reasons A, B, and C. And I think that we need to do a better job of being really, really honest, because somebody else is hurting. It was tough. Trust me, as the team owner, or, Lisa and I own it, but I had the great pleasure of actually doing that. And I'm being highly sarcastic. It's not a fun day to let your employee know, I got to meet you at noon in conference room B. It is not fun. I don't care what the reasons are.
No.
And anybody that's saying it's easy or it's that, they're lying. It's really emotional. It's somebody's life. It's their earning. You've become a community. You've become a family. You become friends, so on. So I won't beat that up. But the answer to your question is the Milkovich team has been a team of 5 for many, many years, short of this year.
And when you're doing your trainings, I'm assuming you probably, as a team, have kind of the same ethos, I guess, the same perspective. Do you find when you're doing training, do you ever find like this person is just not the right fit? Like this is not going to happen.
Or to piggyback on that, how do you vet a team member to come to you? Because you do have a wonderful presence. We'll hashtag it in a hot second, but like I can find you online. I say, ooh, they seem like fun people. I want to go work for them. How do you vet somebody that's wanting to be a part of it?
Yeah, there's this saying, years ago, our team operations manager, I looked at her, I'm going to get to the answer in a minute, but I'm going to first tell a story. And I said, have you ever thought about getting your license? It was a non-licensed operations manager. And she looked at me and she said, very sarcastic, very dry person. I would rather put myself on fire and put hot forks in my eyes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's important. Hot forks in my eyes than to ever think about doing what you do. And I was like, wow, I wanted to share that before I answered. So I think for us, it's I'm going to just being kind, being a kind, good, caring person. That's actually number 1. That's my first vet. Number 2 is, at the end of the day, are you seeing that your role is to help the Milkovich team take great care of people and grow sales. Because here's the thing. Your job title is A, and that's great. You need to be good at that to keep your job and to be successful. But if the driving force behind you wanting to be a part of this team is not to support the drivers, which in this case is Lisa Milkovich and Kristine Milkovich, if you are not clear on our mission and what we're about, and you're not having the ability to get behind it, then you're not going to be the right fit, right? You need to be good at your job description. But if you're not behind the mission, right, and that goes back to, I think, being a brand evangelist. If I believe in something or someone or a company, I'm going to eat, drink, breathe, all the things, right? Because I'm behind that mission. I got to do a really good job at my job description, right, to make my boss happy and keep my job. But I also have to be able to figure out, is this the right lane for me to just really go in and be committed? So hopefully that answered your question, Hillary. I think, of course it's the job and the background and the skill, but are you fired up to go out on the street and be a brand evangelist? Like, that's what I look for. Like, are you going to go out there and preach the word of the Milkovich team if you're working on our team?
And also
I
to
think that's so
reflect
important.
your values,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, to our point earlier in the really making strides for housing equality and
Yes.
fair housing, and making sure that the traditionally underserved communities across the board have the same
Yes.
access to, housing. And that is, doing a good advocacy piece in it. Like, you're not just selling downtown Seattle.
Right. And
fluffing pillows.
Exactly. I mean, and I just wanted to underscore something you just said, Hillary, is because you asked me this earlier and I feel like I didn't give a rounded answer, is being aligned with these affiliation groups like the Alliance, like NAROP, like ARIA. It's such a privilege for me, an honor, I should say, to be able to have that be a guiding light at our brand. And I can tell you, and my sister, when she hears this, will laugh. There's times where she's like, you're doing a lot. You're really busy. You're on the Alliance board. You're going to conferences. You're doing this. And my answer, and it's not that she doesn't love me or support me or believe in it, just to be clear, that's not my intention. But I think that it's a choice, right? It's a choice to be an activist. It's a choice to go out and fight for various rights that you believe in. And so it's kind of going back to the team thing. Does everybody on my team have to be an Alliance member? No. But if they're not, their value system, back to your point, Hillary, if it's not in alignment with who we are and what we believe in, of fair housing, advocacy, opportunity, then it's going to be a disaster. Obviously, we've all made that hire. No?
Sure.
Yeah.
Am I the only one in this room?
No. We've all been there.
I've been that higher. So.
Yeah, stop it.
Stop it. No, well, we appreciate you and thank you for all that you do. And it's quite fun to attend your leadership sessions because they are not just entertaining, but there's always massive nuggets that you take out of them. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank
I do
you,
want to give a
Hillary.
shout out to you. Share where we can find you, Instagram, all the online handles.
Yeah, just the Milkovich Team is on Instagram. My personal Instagram, no spaces, is Style by Milkovich. And you can also find us on LinkedIn and our webpage and all the goodies.
I love it. Well, thank you. And thank you for owning all of it. You are an amazing person.
Thank you both for having me. It was a pleasure.
Cool. Well, we'll see you on another episode of On It.
Next time on Own It, we're diving deeper into our second episode in our My First Million series with Amanda Lee, a rock star realtor at the Avenue Home Collective in San Diego. She is redefining success through service and authenticity. She's going to break down how she got to her first million, how she stayed true to herself, became her ultimate cheat code to success, and she's going to actually share takeaway insights that might just change your game. Make sure to tune in.